All right, we're back. You know, I'm going to take this topic and I'm going to run with it this morning because I feel as if we have, I generally try not to talk too much about the issue of preparedness. One, because I want you to be aware of what's going on around you politically so that, and that's the real focus of AVN, right? To educate, to inform, to motivate, and to activate you into grassroots activity. But part of that is the fact that you should be, and you need to be, prepared for the preservation of you and your family during whether a short-term, mid-term, long-term crisis. And that can incorporate everything from, a natural disaster like that Sandy storm that we had, a Katrina, that hurricane or that tornado that they had out in Joplin, Missouri a couple of years ago. I mean, these take the form of anything from a matter of a couple of days to weeks to even months and perhaps years. We are at a point where our Homeland Security is alerting and warning us that we are on the verge of civil unrest. They're preparing for it in massive format. When I talk about that, I mean in terms of weapons and ammunition, in terms of manpower. And in addition to that, they are hoarding massive supplies of food and medical supplies. And they are gearing up and preparing for what they anticipate is going to be a surge of civil disturbances, rioting, looting, those types of things. So what are you doing to prepare yourself and your family for that? Well, there's two schools of thought on this. If you live in a rural area, then most folks are kind of, that mentality of I will shelter in place, right? That's the new buzzword for the government. And they encourage you in urban and suburban areas to shelter in place. That's a mistake. I'm going to tell you that right now. Because those will be the areas that will fall, and the masses of people and the people that will be surrounding you will be looking. They'll be the ones who are actually rioting and under civil unrest. They'll be the ones who are looting. So if those people who are situationally aware will recognize that sheltering in place is a recipe for suicide. I'm telling you that right now. If you are one of those people that's believing that you live in this suburban neighborhood and you can fortify your home and your place of business or whatever to withstand an even a moderate level of civil unrest, you're mistaken. So the other school of thought, and if you live in rural America, generally you don't worry so much about that unless you're right on the outskirts of a city, at which point the exodus of the mass exodus of people who will try to get away from a city in a crisis like that, where let's say the power was to go out for an extended period of time, or there's massive flooding or something like that, that exodus will incorporate you and your community as well. And believe me, when people start to move like that, you'll find that it's like a herd of locusts comes through. They will clean out everything. And the amount of personal damage and financial damage and damage to your property and so forth will be so extraordinary that you will have no idea what the end result of that will be. I'm encouraging you to take a look at the two schools of thought on this and follow whichever one is appropriate to you. But I want you to educate yourself and be aware of what's happening so that you can take some level of action. The two schools of thought are, one, you shelter in place. If you're in a rural area and you're in a smaller community that is not really surrounded by large cities, and so you can pretty much prepare yourselves and your family to be able to shelter in your home where you have access to food and water and heat and so forth. The other side is, if you are living in an urban or a suburban area, or you are near or adjacent to a large city, that you should find what's called a location away from home, right? A lot of people call it a bug-out location. I don't like the term bug-out, but it is appropriate. And the reason for that is because when the poop hits the fan, right, when the brown stuff hits these oscillating wooden blades and splatters all over the wall, the best place for you to be is not there. And so that may require that you have family members who do live in a rural area where you have a predefined plan that this is where we're going to go. Now, recognize that you're not going to be alone in that regard, and you're going to be looking at trying to get there along with millions of other folks. And so you have to realize that roads are going to be clogged, food is going to be in a shortage, there's going to be, a lot of crisis going on. People are going to be frightened, they're going to be terrified, they're going to be ill, they're going to be hungry, they're going to be unprepared. And I got to tell you, when people haven't eaten in a week, they'll kill you for a can of peas, folks. And that's the truth. And if you don't believe me, go look at any place in the world where this kind of thing happens. It's rampant throughout the world. We have been blessed with winning the proverbial genetic lottery by being born here in the United States of America, where the poorest of us live like kings and compared to 50 to 60% of the world. But I got to tell you that, at some point you got to recognize the danger of your positioning. So the point is this. If you don't have a plan of action, if you don't have a place of where you can go, if you're in an urban or a suburban community or peripheral to a city, then you should plan that and plan an escape route to get there. But recognize that your vehicle and your automobile will probably not be able to get you there. And so a lot of folks pack what they call a bug-out bag I call it an exfil bag. Exfiltrate, as in gotta go now. And everything that you need should be in that bag where you can literally have 72 hours of, and that's the rule of thumb, is a 72-hour survival kit, if you will. It has the clothing that you need, the food that you need, the shelter that you need, the ability to get a hold of water and or cleanse water if you need to, build fire, take care of your family, the immediate food necessities that you have. So let's understand what we're talking about. You're talking about the idea of being able to go from an urban or suburban or city proximity location to a more rural setting where you can get away from the crowd, the riots, the whatever is going on. The idea is that 72-hour bag will get you from point A, your home base, wherever that is, to point B, which is your location away from home where you'll feel and you and your family can be safe, where you have more prepared facilities there, where you have access to water and stored food and so forth. There are a lot of books out about how to do this. There are a lot of pre-built kits that you can buy when you look on websites and you find bug-out bags for sale and all that kind of thing. Listen, if you're in an urban community and you're listening to this and you're saying, man, this guy is off the charts, I got to tell you, that's okay. You can think that way. But I'm going to tell you this. If I'm right, you're dead. If I'm wrong, okay, so you've done a little preparation and it hasn't hurt you because you can still use all those things that you gathered and collected and put together, and you can still eat all the food that you may have stored and prepared and so forth. I mean, look at it this way. You buy automobile insurance not because you plan to have an accident, not because you even believe that you're going to have one. You don't get up in the morning and leave your home to drive to work and say, today I'm going to have a wreck. But they happen. And that's why you buy insurance. And so you own homeowners insurance, not because you are expecting a lightning strike or a fire in your home or a flood, but because if it happens, you want to be prepared. This is no different. And it's quite frankly probably the least expensive insurance policy that you can purchase for your family and yourself and your well-being. There's a book that really is plain English with lots and lots of good ideas and lists of things that you need to put together for one of these bags it's kind of a go bag. The name of the book is The Perfect Bug-Out Bag. It's by a guy, Creek Stewart. It's your 72-hour disaster survival kit. And he's not a tinfoil hat guy. He talks about whether it could be, a regular weather emergency, anything, right? But the point is, what do you do when you got to get out? It covers fire, shelter, water, tools, first aid, all of the basic necessities that you would need to get from point A to point B. This book is available at the battery station. That's where I got it, and I would encourage you to get a hold of one. You can get one by calling over to the battery station and ask for Kevin. He's the owner over there. He's a friend of mine, and he's also a sponsor of our program. You can reach Kevin by calling 417-257-7799. I told you to get a pen and paper for this particular show and today in general, but I want you to make sure that you get this information down. I'll give it to you again so that you have an opportunity to get this book. There's lots of these out there, by the way. I just have read this one. I've read many of these, but this particular one I thought was very clear, concise. It's not full of a lot of fancy nonsense. It's not full of a lot of, doom and gloom. It's just practical. And that's what I liked about it. Because the kid, I shouldn't say the kid, the guy who wrote this thing has a lot of experience, both domestically and internationally, in reference to, where to go, what to do, what do you need, and it's got checklists in the back that make it really easy. I mean, if you look in the back here, it's got checklists about what do you need, not only for one bag, but what if you're by yourself? What if it's just you and a couple? You are a couple, or what if it's with kids? And what if it's with someone who's handicapped? What if it's with a parent who's disabled? And he breaks the bags down into what you need for each of these situations, right? And he breaks it down so that if you're a parent with, if you're a parent with a couple of kids, this is what you would need to pack for your bag. He makes recommendations about some of the tools that you'll need and some of the gear and the equipment that you'll need. I think the book is $15. It's probably one of the cheapest ways you can go and have a good, thorough understanding, and take it from an expert, not somebody who's pre-packed a bag and is selling it up on eBay or something like that. Those will get you killed. But this thing, and it's very, what you need and what I need and what your neighbor needs are three completely different scenarios. Because, again, life depends on whether or not you've got children. And if you do, how big are they? Are they babies, or are they able to maintain and have some level of mobility on their own? Can they pack a pack? What do you do if you've got someone with you who's handicapped or is wheelchair bound or has Alzheimer's? I mean, listen, the scenarios could be endless, right? So I like the fact that the kit is practical. And I also like the fact that there's checklists at the end, which is what most of us need because, listen, we're swamped with everything that's going on in our lives. So I would strongly encourage you to get a hold of this. You can get a hold of it again at Battery Station, the Battery Station. You can they have a website, by the way. It's batterystation.com. This company, by the way, started out with batteries. They are the largest distributor of batteries nationwide. They've got everything from these, the lithium 123 batteries, which they sell by the tens of thousands per month and ship all over the world. They ship to our military. They ship to many of the government agencies, including the DHS. They are probably one of the biggest distributors of batteries and flashlights and that kind of gear in the nation. And so I want you to get a hold of them. You can find their website by going to batterystation.com. And there's any of the products that are related to the battery business you can obtain there. But they also carry a lot of other stuff. They carry a lot of tactical gear. They carry a lot of, and this stuff is not on their website. They carry books like this. They carry all kinds of tools and gear and stuff like that you can use. If you're local, visit them. They're at 303 Washington Avenue in West Plains. That's 303 Washington Avenue. In West Plains. They can be reached at 417-257-7799. That's 417-257-7799. I believe this book is $15. They have this one plus others, and this one is called Build the Perfect Bug Out Bag. So call Kevin and just ask him for a copy of that. He'll be happy to ship it to you. They ship all over the country, so it's quick and easy and inexpensive. Call him, by the way, when you're on the phone there and ask him about batteries and flashlights. He's got the biggest selection I've ever seen, and I've been to a lot of these types of places. What I like about this is because is that he's giving you practical, real-world expectations. It's not a lot of fancy hoopla and who can buy the most expensive, fanciest gear with all the bells and the whistles and the goo-gaws and the hoo-haws. This is real practical application stuff. How to find the right pack, What's the right kind of pack? There's so many packs out there. What do you need to put in that pack? What are the basic things that you need? What should you worry about, and what should you really not worry about? And he's very, very practical about it. The other side is that you really need to, and if you're not in a, I mean, look, if you're, I know a lot of folks, because I live in a rural area, and their attitude is, I am never leaving. This is where I am, and this is where I make my stand. If things go bad, whether they're financial bad, whether they're electrical grid bad, whether it's a storm, whether it's a tornado, whether it's a hurricane, whether it's a flood, whether it's a feast or a famine or a death or disease or what have you, this is where I'm at. And if that's the case, that's fine. I also encourage you to get a hold of Kevin because he helps me run a co-op program that is geared and designed for you. We've set up a co-op program where you can purchase bulk foods in quantity, and you can buy them at wholesale prices. Now, I got to tell you, Kevin's a businessman, but in this case, he doesn't even make a penny. He's just doing this as a community service. It's only open to the listeners of America's Voice now. No one else knows about it, and if you're not listening to this program, or you're not a participant with us in the other projects that we do, you don't even know about it. So it's not some massive program that's available to anybody. But what it does is it enables you to buy bulk food at wholesale pricing. And you can buy a 50-pound bag of rice, or you can buy a 50-pound bag of wheat, and you can buy organic as well as non-organic. I know a lot of people are worried about GMO and all of that kind of thing. That's great. It's available to you either way. You can buy a 50-pound bag of sugar or salt, or you can buy, they've got baking soda and any kind of a dry good that you could be interested in for the purposes of, preparing your family, whether that's noodles or spaghetti or whatever it is that you want. And I strongly encourage you. He also has freeze-dried food. He's got the Mountain House cans, those number 10 cans. By the way, I've seen the prices he charges for that. Nobody else even comes close. And Kevin has not asked me to do this today. He's not sponsored this. He's not paid for this as an ad, nothing. He's just a guy I know who is a great American and is willing to step up and help his community. So there's one thing that America's Voice doesn't do. We don't sell a bunch of junk. You listen to other radio hosts where their whole entire show is an infomercial. We don't do that. We try to dispense knowledge, education, information. So take this in the spirit in which it's intended. The goal of this is to help you find that which is imperative to your long-term and short-term survival in an emergency. Because it's an issue of personal interest for me as well. So what I want you to do is get a hold of Kevin over at the battery station. He does this without any compensation whatsoever. So you can go over there, but you have to physically go. So if you're not local, this isn't going to help you much. You can find maybe a local co-op in your area that'll help you obtain this type of thing. But if you're local and you're in you're in our local broadcast area, by all means, get over to the battery station. Ask for the co-op catalog. Place your order, and then if depending upon the size of it, if it's a really big order, they may ask you for some sort of a deposit. But the point is, when the stuff comes in, about a couple of weeks down the road, you'll get a call, your stuff is here, come pick it up. You can buy 50-pound bags of oatmeal. Quick oats, like stuff that you can literally throw some warm water in and boom, you got a meal. And if you're smart, you'll buy the accoutrements to be able to make that into a meal. So you can get, some raisins, or you can get whatever you want. The point is, you have to be creative, and you have to understand what your family is willing and not willing to eat. What are the things that you normally do in your day in and day out? Buying bulk cans of tuna fish by the case. When I go to the store, I buy a case of tuna fish. I love tuna fish. I eat it all the time. Sometimes I just open up a can of it, throw a spoonful of mayonnaise in there. I stir it all up, put a little bit of onion in there, and I eat it just like that. Nothing wrong with that. It's good food for you. These are basic functions that you can do as an individual to prepare yourself and your family for, listen, in the event of a large snowstorm and you were locked in your home. They just had one in North Dakota, or South Dakota, I apologize. One of the two. 70,000 cattle died because they got 4 feet of snow in 24 hours. 70,000 cattle died. It's so bad that the state is sending around bulldozers to dig mass graves to get rid of all these cattle. Now, people were locked in their homes for days. Most American homes have less than 3 days' worth of food in their home. Less than 3 days. My point to you is, don't ever be caught in that position. And don't be caught in a position where, when you are in a situation that requires you to leave your residence and seek shelter somewhere else, you're not prepared for that. To build one of these exfil bags, to build a bob or a bug-out bag, literally, it might cost you a few dollars for each member of your family. And it's going to sit 99% of the time. If you want to go camping, great. Take it camping. Practice with it. But at the same point in time, it doesn't cost anything really to have it sitting there and available for your use. It's not really meant to be used. You hope you don't have to use it. But you bought car insurance for the same reason, folks. You bought homeowners insurance for the same reason. You have health insurance, now mandated, for the same reason. The idea of all of this is that you and your family are prepared and you've thought about what could happen in advance. You don't have to get disaster scenario minded about it and panic and flip out. But think about it. If you've got little children, how are you going to handle that? If you've got a baby, shouldn't you have one of those backpacks that you can strap on where you can drop your kid in the back of this thing and hit your sneakers? You may have to. So giving it some forethought, giving it some credible thinking before it occurs is only good parenting. That's good family leadership skill. Exercise it. Use your critical thinking skills. Educate, inform yourself about what is going on around you so that you are better prepared to protect yourself and your family in an emergency. If you're going to have, and you must have, some weaponry, I advocate everyone have weaponry. But you also have to know how to use it. And I don't have the time to get into that whole thing here today on this show. But I think once in our video studio, I believe that what I'm going to try to do is get together with a couple of individuals who are well-skilled at different aspects of this. One food, one weaponry, one transportation, et cetera, et cetera. And I think what we're going to try to do is put together a series of programs that will enable you to have, for all intents and purposes, a discussion with us about what you should look for towards food, shelter, weaponry, defensive weaponry, ammunition, the things that you would need, the tools that you would need, and some of the first aid supplies. And we can tackle these topics one at a time, maybe make it a 1-hour program where we really sit down and get over and get into the details and the nitty-gritty. If that's something that you'd be interested in seeing, send me an email to mike@americasvoicenow.org. That's mike@americasvoicenow.org. If you have other show ideas that you'd like to see me cover, by the way, please include that in there. Please don't incorporate me into your chain mails. I don't like those, and I get so much email I cannot handle anymore. So it's important that I communicate with you, but please make sure I'm communicating with you, not some static chain mail garbage that you send me. I get enough of that. So, but my point is this. If you would like to participate, or you'd like to see a show like that, or a series of shows like that, and each one tackling a different aspect, then let me know. We've built a video studio. We're expecting to be able to start going in there and recording shows shortly. I would like for that to be one of the first ones. We can stream it live, and or we can record it and then post it up on, our website and YouTube and other places. There's too much to cover in an hour. But if you were to break each of these topics down, the fuel, the fire, the shelter, the tools, the first aid, the clothing, the gear, and since I don't sell anything, I've got no vested interest in pushing. I don't want it to be an infomercial. I want it to be educational. I don't sell stuff. If you listen to every other radio host out there, go look at their website, and it's awash in books and garbage that you can buy. We have a link to Amazon. I've never even gotten a single penny out of Amazon for it. So if you're using that link to Amazon, you're wasting your time. They've never paid me a penny. We have a link to Brownells only because it's convenient for gunsmith and gunsmithing tools and equipment and gear. But the truth is, guys, we don't make any money at anything that we do. If you can support us, by the way, we'd love it. There's a button right there. You can PayPal a donation to us. We desperately need it. I pay for everything out of my pocket. But the simple truth is this. If there is any way in which you would be interested in seeing a series of these programs, please send me an email to mike@americasvoicenow.org. I will make these books available to you. I think what I will do is I'll ask Kevin if I can put a link up to him. By the way, go into America's Voice Now, and you will find a link right next to the video screen to Battery Station. You can just click there, and it'll take you right there. It's batterystation.com. He has this book. He has plenty of others, but this one I found particularly valuable, and I've read probably a half a dozen or a dozen of these over the years, at least a dozen over the years. But in an unexpected emergency, if disaster hits, what do? This is the perfect solution for that. It's at least a good starting place for you. I think the thing only sells, I think he sells it for $15, so you can't go wrong. And then what we'll do is create a series of programs that will kind of help to explain what you should and shouldn't be doing, and try to give you some semblance of a level of preparedness. Maybe as a series, if we cover it in 5 or 6 different segments, it'll make it, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. So that's our goal. That's the plan. I appreciate your staying with us this morning. We're going to have to break because we've reached the end of our program. Please make sure that you are thoughtful and considerate of this. I don't care where you buy your stuff. I don't care what you get. I just want you to be cognizant, aware, and prepared. That's what matters. Meanwhile, by the way, there are lots of other folks in your community that are doing this. Don't advertise what you're doing with storing food and things like that. That's not smart. But knowing that you can communicate and work with other folks in your community who might teach you how to can, might teach you some of the basic skills of gardening. I mean, that's a good thing. So find local people in your community. And if that organization doesn't exist, guess what? You're the leader. You start one right now. Organize it. Use your skills. Use your brain. Use your heart. Use the greatness that God gave you to become an influence in your own community. Start a circle of influence if you don't have one. That's part of what we want. That's part of the goal of America's Voice Now. Sort out, find, and create leaders who will then go out and influence the community in which they live. Educate, inform, motivate, activate, grassroots effort. That's what we're all about. Appreciate you listening today. Appreciate you joining us every day on the web. Those of you who catch us on YouTube and on our Facebook channel and stuff like that, God bless you. I really am so grateful and appreciative for all the support that we get. If you can support this program in any way, shape, or form, there's a PayPal link on our website. Please feel free to do that. You can mail a payment to us if you'd like to. America's Voice Now, P.O. Box 1195, West Plains, Missouri, 65775. I'll give that to you again. It's America's Voice Now, P.O. Box 1195, and that's West Plains, 2 words, Missouri, M.O., 65775. Thanks very much for your time today. I appreciate you. We will see you shortly. We'll be back tomorrow with more news, information, input, commentary, ideas. God bless you. Have a great day. You can find us on the web by going to americasvoicenow.org. You can find us by going to facebook.com/America's Voice Now. And then you can also find this and every other show that we do on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/America's Voice Now. Basically, remember the phrase America's Voice Now, type it into any browser, and you'll see our Facebook, YouTube, and website channels available to you. God bless you. See you tomorrow morning.